that's right, Steve and Deb. Despite having a jail capacity that's roughly double that of Clackamas or Washington County, Multnomah County does seem to be spending quite a bit less than those neighboring counties. Documents I obtained through records requests found that from January 2023 to October of this year, Multnomah County spent $8,019,000 on inmate medical costs. The county's maximum jail capacity is 1,130. In the same time frame, Clackamas County, with a maximum capacity of 491, spent $9.4 million. Washington County, with a maximum capacity of 572, spent $12.4 million.
And this is just one more area of the drug crisis and the mental health crisis is exacerbated in Oregon.
Danielle Bethel, Marion County Commissioner and President of the Oregon Association of Counties, tells me one or two really sick patients can end up driving up those costs.
I know here in Marion County we had an AIC who recently had a heart condition, and we were transporting that individual to Lane County to receive health care down there. The cost of prescriptions to care for someone's heart is super high.
Another variable that can contribute to higher costs is the model used to provide medical care. State and federal prisons provide most of their care through doctors and nurses that are on their payroll. Multnomah County uses a similar model. Clackamas and Washington County use an outside contractor.
Yeah, well, when someone dies, somebody is held accountable. And because the system is so challenged, it goes back to whoever the medical provider is.
The liability has decreased the number of medical providers that are willing to contract with jails and has driven up the cost. Bethel says rural counties carry even more of that burden.
And in large counties, we contract with medical providers and we have nurses on staff. In rural counties, they don't have that.
That means everything is outsourced to outside hospitals, increasing the cost and the risk to inmates because of transportation times. My investigation found that with a capacity of 255 jail beds, Yamhill County has spent $1.6 million on medical since January of last year. Marion County, with a capacity of 470, spent $2 million.
When you have somebody in your jail who has cancer and they're facing prison, they're going to be in jail for a long time because the justice process is really lengthy. Right now, counties are having to write that check.
Every year, county leaders from across the nation ask Congress to have Medicaid write that check. Proposed bills to do just that never make it very far. California and Washington have recently implemented a Medicaid waiver that kicks in a couple months before inmates are released and covers some limited medical costs in jail. Dave Baden, OHA Deputy Director of Policy and Programs, says Oregon is now following suit.
Because we're really looking at this benefit going live. The earliest will be beginning of 2026.
And why did it take us longer?
So we have a lot of things going on in Medicaid, and I think are really on the forefront of a lot of innovative activities. And sometimes it's nice to follow other states and see what lessons that they have.
Yeah, that's right, Stephen. I want to show you something new here on this deflection building right now. It's just here last week. This wasn't up. That poster you see there, it's a requirement for hard hats once you come in the building. So you can see construction is now underway on this new deflection center. And as you mentioned, my investigation that we reported on last week found Multnomah County's deflection plan so far is shaping up to be one of the most lenient statewide. And those new details this week that you just mentioned show Multnomah County is the only one that's offering unlimited chances at deflection while also not charging people who fail to engage in the deflection program. In 1 month, drug possession becomes a crime again in Oregon. 8 counties will treat this crime like any other. 28 counties committed to giving people caught with drugs a chance to choose treatment instead of arrest and charges. New details about Multnomah County's deflection program reveal it is the only one statewide that won't charge people for failing to engage with the program, while at the same time also giving them unlimited chances to keep avoiding charges by choosing deflection. The team planning this program says it will only charge someone if they're caught twice for the same crime in a 30-day period. But those plans are not yet set in stone. County Commissioner Julia Brim-Edwards says the county chair still needs to present the rest of the commission with plans for approval.
What was voted on last Thursday was only the facilities plan. The amendment I offered requires them to come back for a larger plan for deflection and sobering. which is not what got presented last week. So I'm looking forward to hearing more details.
County Chair Jessica Vega Peterson is supposed to present the Board of Commissioners with a detailed plan on August 15th. She declined multiple requests for interviews this week and last week, but promised us she'll answer our questions soon. Brim Edwards says she's not on board with what she's heard about plans so far.
From the very beginning, one of the first things I said is that we shouldn't just have a continuous revolving door.
Yeah, Barry, that's right. Emails between the city of Troutdale and the Department of State Lands suggest the agency could not get Multnomah County Sheriff or the Oregon State Police involved. The agency moved forward anyway, resulting in clashes between private contractors and people in the camps. Clashes between private contractors hired by the state to clear homeless camps and the people who've been living at those camps. Some, like Benny Bales, say it's been home for over a decade.
What you want us on your sidewalks, join everybody downtown. We're not wanting to live that lifestyle. We like to be off in the bush.
The bush he's talking about, 50 acres of state forest with dozens of well-established homeless camps. The state's been working on a plan to clear them out for 6 months. Troutdale City Manager Ray Young says he's been pushing them to do it for much longer.
Well, the camps out at the Delta, the Sandy River Delta, have been there for decades, literally. And even though it is outside the city limits of Troutdale, we are adjacent to it, and it impacts our citizens and our businesses greatly.
I obtained emails between Young and the Department of State Lands that show the agency tried to no avail to get help from Multnomah County Sheriff's Office and the state police. This cleanup is progressing without the support of any law enforcement. The Sheriff's Office booted it over to Oregon State Police, who acknowledge the state land is indeed under their jurisdiction, but still refuse to support the action, one of the emails reads. Another email suggests the clashes between private contractors and people at the camps prompted Oregon Governor Tina Kotek to call for a pause on camp cleanup. Documents I obtained show the security company estimates it spent over $6,200 to recruit, train, license, and outfit security officers. It says the state will need to pay that same amount again once the pause is lifted. Young believes the pause is the result of a lack of leadership.
When the governor's office called a halt to it recently because of the problems, that was very frustrating, because I would hope that the governor's office would say, okay, we're going to appoint somebody with some authority down here at the state of Oregon who controls those lands to kind of coalesce all of the involved parties that I've talked about.
Residents like Jack Burchell at Milepost 5 say the roach infestations they showed us during a tour of the apartments are nothing compared to what they see when the lights go out.
I put these roach traps down a couple of weeks ago, and I put several hundred there are several hundred roaches in the 8 traps that I put out. Sometimes I end up sleeping through the day when I should be working, just because if I keep all the lights on at night and I'm active at night, then the roaches don't end up coming out, and it helps sort of mitigate the problem.
The infestation problem appears just as bad as the one we reported on when we toured this same building almost a year ago. So we talked, what's it been, 10 months now? What's changed since then?
Well, one of the biggest changes is the fact that OHCS closed down our ability to speak and speak publicly.
Residents like Amber Cook had been taking their grievances with Milepost 5 owner, Community Development Partners, or CDP, to the Housing Stability Council's public meeting since 2021. The council is tasked with approving all of Oregon's housing agency funding decisions.
It wasn't just the Housing Stability Council, and it wasn't just some of the heads of the state housing agency. There are all kinds of housing organizations and other agencies that listen in on this call.
Cook and other residents felt a sense of hope when the council announced it wouldn't approve $44 million in public funds to CDP for another low-income project till it fixed issues at Milepost 5. But a week later, it released the funds, and after K2 reported on the issues in the building, the council shut down public comment on non-agenda items.
And I mean, it feels like a punishment, right? You exposed us. We got some bad press. We don't like it, so we're going to take it away from you.
Delia Hernandez, a spokesperson for the housing agency, says The decision wasn't related to our coverage.
It's beneficial for the council to hear information if they're going to vote on a certain development. And the time is limited, and that's why it was restructured that way.
Documents I obtained from the agency through records requests show they'd been tracking many of the issues almost a year before my last coverage. An audit conducted by the agency in January of 2023 flags more than 80 violations. Things like broken windows, safety issues, a lack of usable bathrooms, and of course, the roach infestations. A tour we took of the building on November 22nd show many of those issues persist. Has a housing agency ever considered telling CDP that if they don't fix these problems within the next year, then you'll stop funding them future projects?
That would be a good question for leadership. I could ask and get back to you on that.
My investigation found the city of Portland has also inspected the property. Its attempts to hold the developer accountable appear more concrete. So far, the city has fined CDP $16,000 for code violations. They remain unfixed. CDP still hasn't paid. In the meantime, residents are left feeling unheard.
It feels like we live in a jail and we haven't done anything. We haven't been convicted of any crime other than not having the means to have an apartment or a place to live that is, at a humane standard.
Former Oregon lawmaker and current Democratic congressional candidate for District 5, Janelle Bynum, wants to set the record straight. Bynum says she reported claims of assault and harassment against her former campaign staffer to the Political Action Committee that hired and managed him.
As a mom, I'm really concerned whenever anyone reports, especially young people report an incident of harassment at work. And so I reported what I was supposed to report and counted on the employer to do their investigation.
Kelly McWilliams filed the complaint in July.
I did not know when I filed the report that it was going to be made public.
She's the former campaign manager for Bynum's May primary rival, Jamie McLeod Skinner.
I had more evidence after the campaign was over than I did during the campaign. And I have received additional evidence since the report was filed.
The complaint does not provide evidence of sexual assault or harassment, nor does it provide evidence Bynum tried to cover those accusations up. It does provide screenshots of tweets accusing a man on Bynum's campaign of sending creepy messages to underage girls. It also provides this text exchange between Bynum and another campaign staffer, Connor Carroll.
I think that the issue for me, and what I hope is the issue for other people, is that when presented with information that somebody on her staff had done something to young women to make them even uncomfortable, that her response was extremely dismissive.
I spoke to Carroll on the phone Tuesday. He says the text exchange came after Bynum hung up on him when he tried to tell her about the tweets on the phone. In Bynum's text to Carroll, she appears dismissive, telling him she has, quote, too much on her plate to deal with this. I tried to ask about the text at a campaign event today, but was told she didn't have time to answer. And with regards to your messages with Connor Carroll, your messages with Connor Carroll, can you address the text messages exchange? You have no comment about that text message exchange with Connor? Since the start of June, I've been working with Ellie to understand what happened with her missing paid leave compensation. Ellie is a survivor of domestic abuse. For her safety, K2 News agreed not to show her face or use her real name.
We had agreed to get back together. And very, very soon after that, after we started combining our finances again, he started to get abusive. And I got out of the relationship as soon as I could.
Shortly before getting back together with her ex, Ellie took medical leave from her job of 8 years.
I am diagnosed with bipolar 2 disorder, and I was getting treatment for that through group therapy. It was like a month-long program or 2-month-long program for intensive outpatient care.
Ellie applied for paid leave in October. She says she went through many of the delays K2 News has talked with other applicants about. Multiple identity verification attempts sent in letters she never got that required lengthy appeals.
Every time I would call, I would just get a busy signal, so I couldn't contact them that way.
Eventually, Ellie got a hold of OED through a social media message. By then, bills were stacking up.
I'm getting behind in rent, getting behind in all my bills.
When payments finally started processing in January, Ellie says she was also trying to leave her ex, who she shared a joint bank account with. After she says he used a picture of her signature to remove her from the account, Ellie says she changed her bank information on the Paid Leave website.
They ended up sending in late January some of the payments, some of the back payments to my account that I had on file, and some of the payment and the largest payment to the compromised account.
Yes, my investigation in 2022 and 2023 found public dollars spent on preschool seats that were never filled, as well as expense reports submitted by some of the preschool promise grantees that did not appear to pass the smell test. The Secretary of State's investigation flagged a lot of the same issues.
This is about Oregon's kids.
Oregon Secretary of State Tobias Reed's office flagging waste and the potential for fraud within the state's preschool promise program. The investigation stems from a concerned citizen's complaint to Oregon's Government Accountability Hotline. The probe resulted in a management letter or a set of public recommendations to Oregon's Early Learning Department, similar to an audit.
Can you explain why this specific complaint was, selected for a management letter versus, I'm sure you guys get a lot of complaints.
Yeah, because it's legitimate, because there is something actionable here. There is a question that we can dive into.
The dive uncovered $1.4 million in payments and awards to preschool promise grantees that the Secretary of State investigators believed are wasteful because they were made to preschools with unfilled seats, schools that never opened, and preschools that were allowed to expand their program despite chronic problems with unfilled seats. Issues I've been investigating since 2022.
Thanks for following the story. I just refreshed myself and watched your 2023 story, so you've been on this from the start.
My investigation found the department spent around $20 million on unfilled preschool slots between 2022 and 2023. At the time, I interviewed Agency Director Alyssa Chatterjee about that money.
We approached the 2021 and 21-22 program year with a pandemic lens. So we were not in the practice of clawing money back from providers. We were focusing on stabilizing the limited availability of care. Going forward, heading into this program year, the 22-23 program year, programs who were significantly under-enrolled received that reduction.
Reed's auditors found that in 2023, the grantees that continued to have open preschool promise seats did not receive a reduction in funds like Chatterjee had promised in that interview.